Today, we are going to continue our focus on education after looking at schools earlier on this week. Today, we are looking at the topic of a revolution in learning higher education in the post-COVID world. I'm your moderator today. My name is Lachlan Kitchen, but please call me Kitch, easier for everyone. And I'm an Australian media presenter. I've been in the media for just under 20 years, but I did undertake my university studies here in Dubai as part of my master's 7 years ago. So I'm personally very excited about today's topic. Firstly, let me introduce our expert panelists today who are going to be sharing their vast experience for today's webinar. A big hello to Mr. Venu Chakravarthy, who is the Head of Admissions and Marketing at the Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Dubai campus. Dr. Kavita Shukla, the Assistant Vice President of Student Recruitment and Admissions at the Amity University in Dubai. Dr. Hussain M. El-Mehdi, who is the Dean of Academic Support Services at the University of Sharjah. Now, Dr. Hussain is having a bit of trouble logging in, so hopefully he will be able to join us halfway through today's webinar. Professor Mandla Venkatramana, the Vice-Chancellor of the Gulf Medical University, and Dr. Rami El-Khatib, the Associate Vice President of Student Affairs at the Canadian University in Dubai. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is going to be a lot of fun, so thank you. And as our topic today focuses on the all-important, employability and how to keep pace of employers and markets' needs, we're going to be trying to cover as many of these aspects as we can over the next 45 minutes or so, then allowing us some time to get more of your questions. So please, if you are watching, we want to hear your thoughts, any questions. We also want to get your feedback from some of the polls that we're doing. And we also want to hear you, our experts, maybe challenge each other's thoughts. Don't be scared to speak up if there's perhaps a difference of opinion of someone. That's what we're here to do, really have some collaborative thinking. As we go around to everyone this morning, I'll start with you, Dr. Kavita. The post-COVID world, how is the new academic term going to look for UAE students due to COVID-19 compared to where we were this time last year? If I can ask you to take your mic off mute, please, Dr. Kavita.
Yeah, no. Hi, Kish. Thank you so much for inviting me for this webinar. It's always a pleasure to participate in these webinars with Gulf News. And now, the post-COVID scenario for education and learning will change a lot because of the digitalization. There will be a lot of blended learning component and there will be online classes and face-to-face. There will be a mix of both. And a lot of digitalization and use of technology will come in the way we impart education. So the higher education is going to change a little bit, but it will be a positive impact as far as the use of technology is concerned. So things are going to be a little different, but we hope that the educational learning outcomes will remain and we will be able to achieve them.
Dr. Rami, is it the same for you? Is this going to be the biggest change for students? Is the implementation of so much e-learning compared to this time last year?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Kitch. I followed what Dr. Kavita has said. I mean, there will be a lot of changes, obviously. I think, in a sense, it's going to be a little bit easier this term because we were exposed to it last, as you know, since last spring term, last academic year. So we're just going to continue on this. We have already experienced all the, let's say, difficulties and all of this. So I think we'll be more ready and set to do it this semester. Plus, in addition, we have a blended learning now. So we're not relying 100% on online. There is some accessibility to campus. So that will definitely make it easier, I will say, compared to last semester when we had to start this. But yes, it will. There will be changes, obviously, and as Dr. Kavita said, definitely we will all maintain our quality and academic quality with the advanced technology that we have these days.
Thank you, Dr. Rami. And Mr. Venu, in regards to the changes for you, have you seen with your role in admissions and marketing, has this been a big part of people's inquiries and students' inquiries when they are looking to register for university for this year?
Hey, hi, Kitch. Big hello to all the fellow panelists and also the attendees. I kind of echo the sentiment of what Dr. Kavita as well as Dr. Remy has mentioned, Kish. It looks like a beginning of a new revolution in the academic delivery and education models around the world. And with respect to the UAE, there is no change. While the pandemic has posed many challenges to teaching and learning, it has also opened doors for many possibilities. And about 5 months back, I think most of us had looked at online education or remote learning as the kind of a secondary option to traditional face-to-face classroom education. In fact, online education was not even associated with quality in many of the cases. But today, in the current circumstances, people are more welcoming. I think we are getting into blended models of learning, like what they had mentioned already, where there is going to be a mix of classroom education, there's going to be online education, and I feel personally that it is here to stay. And I think the educational institutions, and I know for the fact Manipal does it, and I'm sure others as well, are spending a lot of time in getting the right platforms, investing the right technology, and to make this blended model a huge success. But major challenge for the universities is to find the right mix of online and face-to-face learning for different type of streams and programs. And then there are extracurricular components. In fact, all the inquiries, the students who are existing or the new prospects, their questions are around this. But having said all this, I feel the students will stand to gain the most. In fact, be fortunate to experience the best of both worlds.
That's interesting what the students are asking for, and we will come to a lot of those admissions later on in this morning's webinar. Professor Manda, good morning to you. Do you echo some of the comments from the other expert panelists that really this is, we're going in here in a blended learning process between e-learning and learning at university has really become the new normal for a lot of students? I'll just have to, I think your mic's on mute there, Professor Manda. We missed that goal that you just started off with.
Yes, this is the commonest mistake we make during webinars, to keep the mic muted and talk. Thanks, Kitch, for this opportunity. Thanks, Gulf News, being the subscriber for Gulf News ever since I've been in UAE for the last 15, 20 years. I beg to differ from the other speakers because I am from a health professions education. Now, I can't run an online clinical training program. We are preparing doctors, dentists, and health professionals, and they are the ones who are going to be in the forefront to treat the patients and treat COVID. COVID and not COVID, they have to be with the patients and start treating. Yes, we do have the didactic aspect of the teaching, which can be online, but our students from Gulf Medical University, whether it's the nursing or the medical, they volunteered during the most peak phase of COVID-19. So for us, the clinical training will be with the patients, with all protection in place, right? And we are training our students to use the protective devices and also to be safe, not only for themselves, for others as well. But the didactic aspect of the medical program or the health professions programs would definitely be online, and it's made our life easier.
Well, I'll stay with you, Professor Manda, because you made a great point. I personally wouldn't want to see a dentist who's only ever learned how to be a dentist over Zoom and never physically looked in someone's mouth. So therefore, considering that there is obviously theory that you can do online, but there's so much practical teaching that you need to do, how are you implementing the safety of the students and I guess test patients and everyone else? What measures have you had to go to adhere to the COVID-19 precautions?
Absolutely. We have very clear guidelines from the Ministry of Health, right? So we have all of us have to follow the universal standard precautions, basically. So all of us are we have a responsibility to be safe and others also to be safe. Now, patients, of course, they are screened for fever, and then there are fever clinics in our healthcare facilities. And if they are suspected, they are isolated, right? The others are treated in COVID hospitals and non-COVID hospitals. For our students, we are giving them, before they come into the clinical training, we already started giving them orientation programs, but all of them have to learn about proper hand washing techniques according to the WHO and CDC guidelines. And of course, wearing masks, social distancing, all that is in place. right? So it's important that and then we developed an online course to know more about COVID and the common causes and precautions you have to take for COVID. And then we almost had about 35,000 people taking that course and getting certified. So this is one of our community engagement activities. We have to be socially accountable, being a health profession education university. So these are some of the measures we have taken. And as I told you, the didactic part it's less. It's more of clinical exposure, and students are posted as usual in our own hospitals. The advantage of Gulf Medical University is that we have our own clinical training sites. We have our laboratories. We have our hospitals. We have our clinics. So we are able to post our students in these places for getting the training.
Thank you, Professor Manda. I think that's a very, very good perspective to put to everyone. For everyone logging on and listening in and watching at home, thank you very much for your questions. If we can ask you to address your questions to the question box at the bottom of the screen. A few people have been placing them in the chat, but if you place them in the question tab, that's the best way we can have our panel of experts answer your questions at the end of today's webinar. Dr. Kavita, you mentioned at the start, like many of our panelists, that we have had some sort of hybrid e-learning across the start of this year. Given you've had the summer break to really think about this and really plan for it, that it's now part of the normal, have you found any new opportunities or any ways to really enhance the student experience with e-learning, given you've had this time off to really plan for a lot of online courses?
Okay. So, Kesh, we have had time to do a lot of introspection and plan for the upcoming semesters so that the student experience does not go down and we are able to achieve the learning outcomes, and we are able to deliver what our objective of delivery was. So we have experimented with a lot of digital platforms. At Amity University, we already had a very good learning management system, which was internally developed and which supported us from March onwards when the last semester had to go online immediately because of the lockdown. So this LMS system, we have upgraded it, and the digital transformation has been amazing. Our faculty has been put on multiple training sessions to leverage technology in their teaching learning delivery. And one of our biggest, I would say, a challenge is always an opportunity also. We have a lot of technical programs that we run at Amity University, a lot of engineering programs. We have a program, BTech program in nanotechnology, where labs are very, very important. So in the lockdown period, we had the labs done by our staff. They were interacting on the Microsoft Teams to deliver the labs, but now we have come up with some kind of solutions that how these technical aspects will be addressed, and maybe the labs, as Dr. Manda also mentioned, that the labs have to be hands-on. So we have created a kind of a plan which is up to KHD to approve us, and so that this technical aspect of the learning is also delivered as per its requirement. So there have been a lot of learnings, and we are very, very well prepared now to deliver the next semesters in whatever which mode that we get approval for.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kavita. When we spoke earlier this week, we looked at high schools, and it was amazing how easily 5-, 6-, and 7-year-olds adapt to changing to these new ways. Dr. Rami, when it comes to adult learning, certainly at your university, what has been the hardest uptake for some of the students? I mean, is it hard to ensure that everyone has the correct infrastructure and has the correct access to technology? Or have you found that's not really been a problem in 2020, that everyone's accessible? I think you've still got your microphone on mute. I know you look like you're playing a video game with your headphones on.
Are you talking to me, Kit?
Yes, I am, Dr. Rami. So
sorry, for some reason the voice is lagging. So I can't hear the question.
No, that's okay. Dr. Rami, we wanted to
Please.
ask you, given how easily some school students adapt to working with new technologies, in the adult world, has it been hard for students to adapt to e-learning? Have there been problems with technology with students at home, or have you found that in 2020, everyone's got access to all of this technology?
I really apologize. For some reason, it's lagging. I can hear just bits and pieces of the question.
Yep. Okay. No,
maybe now. Can you try it one more time now? Maybe.
Yeah. No problem. We really just wanted to ask,
Yeah.
in the adult learning environment, how hard has it been to implement new technology with students at home and in the campus? Or have you found in 2020 that it's really been quite easy, that everyone has access to the latest technology?
Actually, I mean, I think you started the question comparing us to high school or schools, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Again, I'm sorry, I heard the last part of the question. I heard it all. So I believe for adults it's much easier to manage, maybe than school, especially when you talk to primary school students and others. I mean, secondary school is different, but yeah, and most of this new generation is highly advanced, anyways, when it comes to technology. I think once we I think it was easier for them maybe than for us, for the students here I'm talking about, than to get all our faculty and staff trained and to be up to date. Luckily, I mean, we started last March and we ran the rest of that term, including summer 1 and summer 2, with online education. So we had enough time for everyone to get trained, staff, faculty, and everyone. We did learn from whatever difficulties or mistakes we had, technology speaking, during the last few months to fix it and upgrade it to be ready, as we said earlier, this September. Again, having this blended learning will give us also some accessibility, which will make it less relying, I will say, on online and technology, although that will be still I will say, the dominant factor of education or mode of education. So back to the question, I think for adults, for students at universities, I don't think it's been, I mean, I'm sure it's difficult just to adapt to it, but knowing that this new generation is extremely advanced when it comes to technology and IT and computers and everything, I think it was not that bad. And I'm sure now it's going to run even smoother this year. And it may become a mode of education for the future. Maybe this blended learning will become the standard or the new norm. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, I most certainly think it will. Mr. Vanu, if I can come to you, because at the start of a new academic year, it's always quite a nervous time for students. Everyone's always a bit anxious. You're thinking about your admissions, you're applying for different courses and subjects, and sometimes students can think so far ahead that if they don't get into the course they've dreamed of, their life is over, and that can always be so drastic at this time. For a student watching who's thinking about applying for a course, in your role at admissions, what are some of the key factors students should consider before they select a course that's right for them?
In my view, students should always choose program based on what interests them and what their aptitude is towards. Because the interest and aptitude, if both of them come together, then they will excel in whatever program they choose. And I did not mention employability as a key factor. Of course it is, but that shouldn't be the sole criteria when you choose a field of study. I see a lot of times students see what exactly score they need to do to get the best job out there. It doesn't work like that. It's mostly in terms of whether it is pre-COVID or post-COVID. Students should look at their own interest and also their skill sets, their aptitude, like I mentioned, is very critical in terms of selecting the correct programs. Because by the time you graduate, after 3 or 4 or 5 years, there will be jobs that never existed when you first enrolled for your program. So, and especially right now with this COVID, with the new normal, like someone has mentioned, things are changing very quickly. So you need to focus on the area that interests you and you can excel in, and then the rest should follow.
Do you have any advice? Do you have any advice, Mr. Vanu, in regards to, are there any courses that can give you the best chance of success in post-COVID? Are there any courses that can be really agile, or is it really just going back to those principles of choosing courses and subjects that you're interested in?
I think that's the way that students has to go, Kish, because see, I see, because we see a lot of times when the students are coming in, they follow most of the time they follow what others do or what their parents say, and then I see that they kind of struggle. Uh, they don't do enough research in terms of what they actually want and what's the right university that can provide what they want. Uh, yes, definitely there are a few programs that is uh, coming out quite big these days. I mean, especially with the current situation. In fact, the situation has completely disrupted the job landscape, but it has also accelerated change in redefining roles and so redefining courses to prepare students for these job roles as well. There are opportunities in the field of technology, automation, robotics, data sciences, and so on. I see there is a surge. At the same time, I also see in the last few months there is an increased interest in the field of life sciences, psychology, mental health has come to the forefront like never before.
Wow.
But like I said earlier, irrespective of courses pursued and subsequently in the jobs in a post-COVID world, it is more about redefining roles. There will be a renewed focus on skills like technology skills, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, data literacy, etc. And qualities like creativity and adaptability also is very critical. So these are the skills which will prepare the students for success more than the following the crowd and choosing any particular course. So that's exactly why I'm telling them to research on what exactly their skill sets are and what exactly their interests are and follow that.
Yeah, those age-old principles of being adaptable to change, I think, are still very prevalent when you look at most school kids today, and they're going to be entering the job market doing jobs that haven't even been created yet. So it certainly is an exciting time, and that's how we need to view it. Thank you for everyone who's voted in the poll that is currently live. We're going to be doing a few of these across the hour. The current question: what matters most to you when choosing a degree program? What matters most to you when choosing a degree program? Overwhelmingly, it's relevance to the job market, which we've heard could be frustrating given how agile it is, but also interest in the subject at 36%, quality of faculty and infrastructure of the university at 19%, and tuition fees and scholarships down at 8%, which I think is actually quite encouraging that most people are looking beyond the finances and are looking for what's going to make them happy and more secure. If I can also move along to you, following on from the admissions to Professor Manda. I know you obviously have a specialised university, looking at medicine, but have you noticed a change in different applications in regards to COVID-19? Have people been looking upon, more research and scientists or mental health, or or are you remaining consistent on where you were last year?
Actually, we found that the applications for the medical program has almost doubled, and we are unable to keep pace with the admissions, and the MBBS are completely full. And of course, there are more and more people coming into nursing and health profession education, and public health is another one. We have a master's in public health in collaboration with the University of Arizona. And, in this COVID situation, the people who are at the forefront were the public health. They are the ones who were leading and making policies and then, implementing preventive strategies. So these are the three main things and as far as the admissions are concerned, ironically, it's doing better than the last year because people want to stay back here. UAE has fantastically managed the COVID situation, and there can't be any other country which has managed COVID better than United Arab Emirates. So we do salute the leaders of this country for this wonderful way they contained the COVID, and therefore students don't want to go outside the country. So we have had all the students coming to our universities to join.
But on that point, I think that's a great point that you've seen a huge intake on people looking to study, medical professions. Why do you think that is? Do you think people see that there's job security in health, given what's happening, or do you think that maybe it's a bit more people are suddenly feeling a bit more empathetic and they can get more satisfaction out of their job if they can go into those roles of nursing where they're attributing to the greater good?
Kitch, you mentioned about employability, right? A doctor is 100% employable, whether in the government sector or in the private sector, he opens his own clinic, right, after he gets a license. So all our programs, health profession education programs, whether it is medicine, pharmacy, dentistry, health sciences, nursing, they are 100% employable. So I'm sure they come for this. And moreover, the respect the doctor gets. Although now it's a different way of practice with patients well informed because of the Google, and they are Google doctors we are meeting as patients. So nevertheless, still it holds its own prestige, its own it has got its own value.
Well, I think that Google Doctor can be a bit scary because every time I look in Google Doctor when I've got something wrong with me, I think I'm going to die. So I think it's good we get more doctors out there that are changing that perception.
I'm talking about the patient being a Google Doctor. We are treating Google Doctor.
That's what I mean. That's what.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the problem. You look up and you see too many things. Dr. Kavita, Professor Manda touched on the issue of, I guess, with people's inability to travel. Have you noticed that you've had an influx of more local students than you did this time last year?
Yes, we did, Kish. So a lot of more local students are applying to our university, different programs. And also those category of students who are planning to go to either any of the European universities, UK universities or US universities are now staying back in UAE, and they are applying to our programs. So there has certainly been an increase in that category of students.
Now, for students who are looking to select a new course, Dr. Kavita, what do you think are some of the most common mistakes that new students make when selecting a course?
As Vinu also mentioned, that some of the most common mistakes that students make is to come under peer pressure or come under the pressure of the parents that you should choose this program regardless of because of its long-term outlook, or regardless of whether you are interested in it or not. So I would suggest and I would counsel the students that you should look for your interest and try to identify and be in touch with the counselors, because all our admissions counselors are trained in understanding the interest of the student, So the first step to not making a wrong choice in a course, because it can be a very costly mistake. You may lose 1 year. After 1 year, you may think, oh, I didn't like this program. I should have made a different choice. So it's very important for the students to remain in touch with the admissions counselors and meet the faculty, because in all our open days or whatever webinars that we have done during the lockdown period also, all our faculty were available. So they should actually do a good research. They should meet as much subject experts as possible and then try to come to an informed decision. And they should obviously follow their passion. That is something which I always advise all students, that you should look for your passion. And this search should start when they are in their grade 11th, grade 10th. So that is the time that they should start researching for the right course for them and what is their interest area. So the students should actually start early, and they should be in touch with the subject experts. They should be in touch with the admissions counselors, because they are trained people, to understand their needs. Yeah.
You make a very strong point for people to have the courage of their convictions and not just follow, peer pressure or what their friends are doing or what that girl they're keen on thinks would be cool to do that course and then spend 4 years studying. So I think, Dr. Kavita, you'll be interested in our current poll. We're asking, when should students start planning for college admissions? And thankfully, most are seemingly following your advice. 47% said when in high school, 35% 1 year before they start college, or 18% have said be flexible based on circumstances. So I think a lot of people, thankfully, are also heeding to your advice. If I can thank you for all your questions that are coming in. We'll get some more of those towards the end. Dr. Rami, do you have any advice on, why certain students do make common mistakes, but also, when you are speaking to students about admissions, what does your university do to support students in helping that make them make the right choice in a degree?
We do have like a whole team working. We divide them between recruitment, admission, and then you have the student services. So that's why we have all these departments under this big umbrella called Student Affairs, which means they can talk to each other. So we try to start with the students from the beginning of his journey, and sometimes it goes back 1 or 2 years even before high school. We start talking to students from grade, sometimes from year 10. Through our recruitment offices when they visit them in schools or exhibitions. So we build this connection and this link with them throughout the years sometimes. And once they are in high school, or in the grade 12, we start helping them in their admission. We tell them what requirements they need to fulfill. We take them through this journey, as I said, in admission, and then we have the student services to support them through their education. Sometimes, as my colleagues were saying, some students may make a mistake in picking the wrong course or wrong program. Sometimes they notice this a little bit later after they start the admission or the beginning of the semester, even sometimes the year. So we help them in that transfer. We have like the counselor, student counseling and advising that will be talking to students who are having difficulties throughout their education and try to help them or guide them to make the right choice. Of course, you don't force anything on a student. It has to be also something that he's interested in. But that's how I can say it's like we close the loop by following the students from the beginning of his journey throughout his education, hopefully until graduation.
Yeah, I think that's a very key point, is to following students along what is a journey in terms of higher learning. Mr. Vanu, in your work in admissions, as students are, I guess, increasingly conscious of watching the change in the economy this year, and they're obviously now thinking on what courses are going to be more agile in the years going forward. Have you got any recommendation on what would be some of the top programs for students who are looking to improve their employability?
Yeah, in fact, I touched upon it earlier as well, and in fact, colleagues as well mentioned it. Most conventional route is, of course, the engineering and business. There is a surge in technology interest, of course. A lot of students are going in more conventional routes of BCom and kind of program. I am also seeing an increased interest in life sciences, not just the medical sciences, of course, also the biotechnology, these kind of programs as well. Also, there is an increased interest in terms of psychology, mental health. People are realizing these courses are also important. And I see, if a student is really interested in these programs, and if they have an aptitude to do well in each of these, I don't see a problem in them becoming an employable once they completed 3-4 years down the line. In fact, as high as the engineering and business schools from Manipal in terms of placement records, I also see a lot of students get placed quite easily in the programs like media, architecture, design, life sciences and humanities. And in fact, their internship records are close to 100% from what I've seen. I don't think that it is going to change in any which ways. Like I told earlier, it's more of redefining these courses. They are going to be there, and how it's redefining the objectives, what these courses were meant to meet earlier. That's going to be a bit different now in the post-COVID world. So I think it is. That's exactly why the universities have career services in the university itself to travel with the student in terms of preparing well for the job market outside once they finish their.
It is a great point you make there. So for some people who are fearing when they take on a course, how is it going to help me and how is it going to change with COVID-19? As you pointed out, each subject and each course is looking to be more agile in itself in the way it teaches and the way it adapts to COVID-19. So I think for anyone who's watching today and is still a bit fearful about what sort of course they're going to take in, that's some good advice. To you, Professor Manda, for any student who is thinking about applying, and please feel free, if you only need to answer your question based on your experience as a specialised university, how can students who are today looking to put in their application, how can they maximise their chances of a successful application?
Well, we have set criteria for admissions, and for admissions for the medical programs and other programs, professional programs is certainly higher than other programs. So first of all, they fulfill the criteria. And as you mentioned in the previous, I wouldn't agree more with the previous speakers about the suitability of choosing a particular program. It's important that, we have admission counselors, right? And they undergo a structured interview. And we wanted to know whether they're really interested in joining this programs or not. So that's important. And they also write and sort of a reflection and an essay about why they want to join a particular program and give us justification of what they want to do. We also look at the previous, suppose they have done some internships or something like that in the schools for them, so that, we get enough evidence for them, enough evidence for us to know that they are interested in this program. Second thing I wanted to make very important point here, as a health professional, as a doctor also, it is not the end of the world if they make a wrong choice. It's important. So it's okay. They can change course after they realize that they're not doing well. It's important that we have realized, we have done research, and we have found that the first year in the medical school is the most stressful, because they come to a collegiate environment and a university environment from school, and they are on their own. We apply adult learning principles. And, at the end of the day, they are stressed out a lot. So it's a strong mentorship program, which is important to be implemented in the first year, to have good mentorships for the mentors for the students, for them to be guided. And also in the event of they realizing that they have not made the right choice, and not to victimize them, it's important, and then also to just guide them to go into the place where they really belong to. So this is my advice to parents also, to kindly not, if you are an engineer, your son may want to become a doctor. So please don't make clones of yourself. No, if you want to be an engineer, if your son wants to be a doctor, well, good. Come to Gulf Medical University. So, so thanks. So I just wanted to tell you this, that it's important that we take the perspective of the student, and we give a lot of respect to his wishes and his passion, and not force the student by the parents or by peers.
You'll be very interested in our latest poll that has just gone up there, Professor. Who helps the most, or who gives you the most advice in choosing a college or course? Is it the influence of your parents or your guardians, high school teachers, the guidance seminars and the career counsellors, the people who help do the admissions at the university, or is it friends and word of mouth and all sorts of peer pressure? So I'd be interested to see the thoughts. Please have your vote on the poll, because I know specifically as a medical university, your admissions have quite a strict criteria there, Professor, in regards to taking in admissions for the following upcoming year. As we get your votes on some of the polls, Dr. Kavita, when you're taking admissions from students, and I guess this year you're taking a lot more local students than you ever have, what do you do for a student who has suddenly been planning to go overseas and they couldn't get in, and now they're left with this idea of, I need to try and find a university, I've got to find one in the UAE. What is the admission process for last-minute admissions? When is the cut-off date, and how can we help advise people?
Okay, so Kish, our admission process remains the same. The eligibility criteria remain the same. And all these last-minute admissions, we are having a lot of walk-ins, and we have increased the frequency of our open days, and so that the students can come and see the facilities and talk to the faculty and take the admission. So we are encouraging in all our communications also that please come with your documents, come with your transcripts, so that you are able to, we are able to fast forward your admission process. And we are having a lot of influx of such parents and students who are coming to the university, visiting our open days, or taking individual appointments with us. Either it is on on Zoom or it is face-to-face. So the eligibility criteria remains the same. So we have not relaxed our eligibility criteria, but definitely we are counseling these students and plus zone of comfort for these students is their own classmates, other friends who are also in similar situations, and they are also coming to the university. So that is a comfort zone for them. And plus the educational facilities in UAE are also very world class. So it is not something that they obviously they had planned to go abroad or study in any of the US universities, UK universities, but the educational levels in UAE are also world class. So they are not, once they have started examining this, they are satisfied and they are happy with it. So we are in touch with such students, and a lot of counseling is required, but it is happening.
That's very good that the counselling is there, because I know so many students are certainly anxious, going to university for the first time. Dr. Rami, how are you working towards taking this influx of local students who had maybe planned to go overseas and are looking for these last-minute admissions into university locally?
We're doing the same, actually. A lot of open houses, virtual open houses, and we're receiving a lot of walk-ins these days with booking appointments and safety guidelines that we need to follow, obviously. Students are coming now because it's like last minute, as you said. Most of the students are prepared with their documents and everything, so we take them through the process quickly if all the documents are in place. We are offering, obviously, conditional admission following guidelines from ministry, so to make it a little bit easier on people, especially that some grades or equivalencies are taking a little bit more time because of the COVID situation. So I think this conditional admission has been very helpful. In addition to all of this, we as a Canadian university, Dubai, we are a portal to Canadian education. We've been known for this in the market for the last 14, 15 years. And through our partners in Canada, and as you may know, Canada has been as an educational spot or destination for many students from this region. So we always facilitate this transfer to Canada. I mean, that's part of our mission here. And through the office, we have office and advisors that only work on application for transfer to Canada. So this has been always the case for us. And now maybe because of, as you said, many local students are not planning maybe to travel overseas to different destinations, including Canada, they may find us as a good option to start here, and then they see how the situation goes, and then if they want to transfer, we will help them in the transfer, as we've been doing for the last 14, 15 years. So in that sense, I think that's we're giving a lot of support to students. In that, plus in addition of obviously the scholarship extension we did and the discount fee reduction we've been giving for COVID, financial relief for 30%. So we have extended this as well to give students some support and the community.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point about being flexible to students, with the idea that maybe you can undertake your studies here, because I know many students do want to study overseas for the shared learning of travel and working with and learning with different students from different walks of life can often be a big part of the learning process. So that's an excellent point. Mr. Vanu, with your work in admissions, are you finding a lot of questions are coming in with financial difficulties or problems? Is this presenting more of an issue for you with admissions this year, given the nature of the economy at the moment?
Yeah, it has definitely increased, like what Rami has mentioned. The economical situation of the parents seems to be a very important point of discussion these days. And also, like, to answer your earlier question related to students who usually plan to travel to US, UK, to the Western countries or in universities. I think the quality of UAE universities have improved and increased leaps and bounds these days. Regulatory bodies here, be it ministry or KHT, the way they evaluate the universities, the way they rate the universities is absolutely excellent. And, I think the students have to, whether they're thinking about traveling or whatever it is, they have to reach out to the admissions office. And like what Dr. Kavita said, I'm sure case with all the universities, even at Manipal, We have trained counselors who can talk to the students, evaluate their aptitude, their interest. They can connect to their faculty team to give an in-depth counseling. And also we have open days where the students can visit the campuses and get a feel of how the university is like. I also liked what Dr. Rami said. They can come join here and see what's the situation next year and plan to travel abroad. More chances are they might be kind of surprised about the quality that is delivered here and would want to choose to continue and stay here. Uh, Also, to answer your question in terms of the financial situations, I think we are flexible on that front. With respect to the eligibility and the quality of education, there is no flexibility. There is no compromise on that, but definitely in terms of the cutoff dates, last date applications, the UA University generally starts their batches in September. I see just because of the delay in the 12th results, I'm pretty sure a lot of 12th standard students or the equivalent IB or British curriculum students will be watching this show. I know there are during the results, there seems to be some issues in terms of many other things. So what we have done is, I'm pretty sure the other cases also, to be more flexible in terms of payment plans. There are of course merit-based scholarships, but also because of the situation right now, we also offer an additional discounts and payment plans to support the parents. So they should reach out to the admission officers, visit the open days, and have discussions with the admission counselors.
Yeah, I like that point, but I'm going to come back to you in a second because I can see that Dr. Hussain, who has had some trouble logging in due to some technical difficulties of his own, has managed to come in and left his speaker on, so it's just sort of drowning everyone else out because his IT team are trying to work out his problem. So if anyone from Dr. Hussain's IT team could maybe mute his microphone, it's going to be a lot easier for the rest of us to hear what Mr. Vanu and everyone else here has been saying in regards to advice. Some of the questions that have come through, we're going to get to them formally in a second, but if I could just equally go around. Thank you, Dr. Hussain's been muted. That makes it easier. Just quickly, if I can get a few brief tips from everyone, do you have any tips to help students make the most of those interviews? If I can just get a couple from each of you. Mr. Vanu, any tips for students?
Be open-minded. Be open about what is your interest. I'm revisiting again the points that I made and other panelists made also. Do research, though it is late right now, but do research on the university, on your own interest and things like that before stepping onto the university counseling or an interview panel, because that's very critical. You should not follow. I know it's fag end of the drive, but you should not get. I saw the poll results also. There are students are also following and almost 50% of that without any disrespect to what Professor Manda mentioned a little earlier. Doctors, engineers, or whatever the other professionals are should see what exactly the students' interests are and what is their skill sets are, and ask them to converse with the counselors and try and find out what is the best solution, what is there for them to take. In terms of preparation for the interview, whatever the portfolios that they've done during their schools over the last 2-3 years, they carry that. It comes in handy in terms of getting the best of scholarships, best of different type of programs that they would want to join. They should be prepared to have more of a conversation rather than be tensed about getting a seat in a particular university. That's the major tip I would want to give.
Yeah, they're very good points, and I think it is still important to reiterate some of those points to people who are maybe just joining us halfway through today's webinar. Professor Manda, do you have anything else to add to that in regards to how students who are nervous and anxious when they sit down for these interviews, how best they can prepare?
I think the faculty should be equally prepared to take an interview and not make the situation tense. So there must be some breaking of the ice, and I want all the students to be themselves, very important, not to be artificial, first of all, and then be honest in whatever they're talking about, and be confident and bold, right? So every interview should be a learning process, and as I told you, it is a two-way process. Communication is a two-way process. It's just not the student, but even the faculty have the interviewer and interviewee both have an important role to play in a positive outcome. So I do wish students. Yeah.
No, continue. I was going to say, spoken like a true scholar, everything's a learning process.
Yeah, and it's lifelong learning at the end of the day. So all the students, I wish you all the best, and be yourself, be confident. Yeah.
Good advice, as we say in Australia. You have to back yourself. Dr. Kavita, anything else? I mean, when you're advising students who are nervous and they want to get the right results in the interview, what's the best way they can calm themselves down and just be ready and prepared for the interview?
The best way is, Kish, as Vinu also said, and Professor Mand also said, that the one thing that they should do, the confidence arises from knowledge. So they should research their area very well, and that will give them the confidence to come up with the right answers. And so that research is very important. They should research their field, look at the trends in the field that they have chosen, and they should have a list of their questions also ready in the interview, that possible questions. And so that is what is important for them to prepare for the research, and more research and more research. And that will give them the confidence to clear the interview, and they should be clear about what they want, and be honest. That is very important, as Professor Mand also said. So these are some of the things that that will help them to clear their interviews. Yeah.
Research, lifelong learning starts even before you've had your first class. Dr. Rami, if I can ask you the same question, but switch it around the other way, rather than asking for the tips that students make, what are some of the common mistakes or some of the failings that you see in a lot of students before they conduct those initial admission interviews?
Actually, supporting my colleagues. I mean, maybe some students, they come without doing the proper research, or they don't put the emphasis on the research. So there may be some misleading information they have, or we feel like sometimes they are lost. They don't know. I think, again, because if the more confident about their topic and the more research they do to make them confident, they will come ready with proper questions. So at least we will be able to guide them. I'm a faculty member myself as well, and I always tell students, if you want to come and sit with me in an office hour to review the material because you didn't understand it well in lecture, or you didn't catch it, or you missed it, or whatever, come ready, come prepared, read it alone first, and come to my office. Then we will be able to focus on your weak, where the knowledge is lacking. So, but if you come there without having any background, whatever you say, a student will be lost because it will be so overwhelming for him. So I think the biggest mistake that some students do is that they may not come so ready, expecting that they will get all the information out on the spot. I think no, come ready, come with questions, and then whatever you don't know, it's easier then to guide you in the right direction. So again, if we'll go to the tips, it will be the same: research and confident, of course.
Yeah, but I do like that point of come with some of your own questions. It goes to show you that you've been learning and have already worked out things that you don't know and you aren't aware of. Look, as we come to the end, we'll get to some of your questions. Thank you very much. Just to quickly finalise that last poll, who helps the most in choosing a college or course? Overwhelmingly, 40% say parents or guardians. Followed by 33% guidance seminars and career counsellors. So it's good to show you that some people are following their heart and taking the advice of career counsellors at the universities. As we look at the first question, and for the first question, I'll throw it to you, Mr. Vinu. As it's been mentioned by our experts today, online education is not new, and there is some excellent pedagogy out there. What are some of the things that your university is doing to support your faculty thinking? So the question is, are you able to hire experts like online instructional designers to support? So the question they really are asking, are you going to be able to keep update with the latest technology? And what is your university doing to maintain the high standards of e-learning?
The academic models, learning environments, and the platforms actually is going to change. Of course, we are talking about blended model these days, or I would call it as evolve. but the core values of education remains the same. Online component, the use of technology were always there, like what the person has mentioned, as part of the traditional education. But the major difference is the use of these online components and the technology at such a scale, which we saw in the last few months and going to see in the next term. But we were always getting there. Only the thing that this pandemic situation have done is that it has fast-tracked the entire education system to the change that would have probably happened gradually in a decade or so. Before the education models, the technology were worked around the program structures and classes. Now we are working backwards on how these classes can and the programs can be designed to suit different models and the technologies that are available. So it's there are so many things, like, what kind of a technology that has to be used, what are the classes, what are the programs that will fit in those technology online. The blended learning is about blended learning. Success is all about finding the right mix on which programs need to be offered in the campus, which programs need to be offered online, which can be offered online. Like what Professor Manda had mentioned earlier, that there are a few programs wouldn't want a doctor who's doing the courses get treated by a doctor who's doing courses online, right? So it's very critical in terms of finding the right mix, and it is also important to the learner experience who's going to attend the classes online. So even what we have learned in the last few months is that our teachers, in terms of creating the models or even the course structures in a more engaging way to the learners. Very critical thing is that these online components should not increase the gap between the teachers and the students. It should create a better educational experience for both. And we at Manipal, be it a technology, be it a training method, be it our faculty workshops, or even the mix between the online and the classroom education. This is the major driving point to ensure the experience for both the learner and teacher is actually good, and whatever the students' expectation, not just academically, but also in terms of extracurriculars, are met. So that's what we are at Manipal preparing towards.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Vinny, because that's an interesting point that I just want to move to our other experts about, is trying to find that balance and trying to find how it can be the best experience for everyone involved. We've had a question from Anants who has come through. I won't post this to Professor Manda because I know he's spoken about the importance of face-to-face learning given the specialised medical university. But for our other panellists, what do you think, this is from Anant, what would be the ideal ratio of online and offline classes, and what are the measures being undertaken by the university to safeguard our students' campus life during COVID-19? And we've touched on a lot of the sanitisation issues that we've been doing by following the rules of the ministry. But if I can speak to you, Dr. Kavita and Dr. Rami, Dr. Kavita first, is there really an ideal balance between e-learning and learning in the classroom, or does it really just depend on the course that students are doing?
It really depends on the course, Kesh, because the face-to-face is more important, where hands-on experience is required, like the technical programs, engineering programs, scientific programs. But definitely other programs also need a face-to-face. So the ratio of online and offline classes will depend on the nature of the program, definitely, and then the student strength in that program, because if you see the management programs, they have a larger number of students, so it will be difficult for us to bring them all to the campus, because we have to maintain the social distancing norms and 1.5 meters distance between the students, the chairs, the classrooms have to be utilized only at 50% capacity. So there are multiple factors, and we are all working towards getting the ideal plan which will satisfy the students. Ultimately the learning experience should not go down. And we are also creating interactive environments for the students to leverage that, because we are running more than 44 different programs here in Amity University, and it is difficult to get all the students to the campus or have a staggered approach or having alternate days. So these are some of the parameters that we are keeping in mind while we are preparing the plan. And also the health guidelines, the safety guidelines as per DHA. So sanitization and the use of this cleanliness, hygiene, all these are being followed as guided by the health authorities. So the ideal ratio, there is it is as per the program that the student is studying. Yes.
Yes, I think it seems to be the ideal ratio is the one that gets the students to pass their course, well, obviously with high distinctions for their course, no doubt, as they graduate. Dr. Rami, would you concur with that as well? For the questions that are coming in, what do you think is the ideal ratio between e-learning and also classroom learning? Can you give a definitive answer, or is it like Dr. Kavita said, it really depends on the nature of the program and the student, and just ensuring that there's the learning and the correct learning involved?
Yeah, Kitch, as you know, Canadian University Dubai is an accredited university in UAE by Ministry of Education, Higher Education Affairs. So we do have to definitely follow the guidelines that the Ministry of Education is implementing. In addition, of course, the DHA and other national directives for safety guidelines and everything. So we are trying to have a good balance between definitely safety, which is the first priority. I will tell you the truth is, it's our first priority. And definitely the academic quality to maintain it as it is. So this ratio is based, as Dr. Kavita said, we did it as blended learning in a sense of essential elements, which are like maybe some labs, studios that require hands-on. We will have them on campus on a rotational base with all safety guidelines maintained on voluntary basis. So students also, if they are not feeling, let's say, confident enough to come to campus now, many parents are still hesitant maybe or whatever, we're giving them that choice to be 100% online. But for the ones who would like to be on campus, for some courses, for some labs and studios that we consider essential, which means they need a hands-on, because we do have like some health program as well, environmental health, which have a lot of biology, chemistry, we have engineering and psychology, some of them, and architecture and interior design, they have studios. So for these type of essential elements, we will have a chance of presence on campus on a rotational base. Otherwise, if the course can be run online without compromising the quality of the academic part of it, we will prefer, as I said, safety first. And that's why I will say there is no specific ratio. It will depend on the course, on the program, and keeping safety as the first priority for us.
Yes, and there's no shortcuts. Doing it at home is not going to make it any easier for you. I think that's one of the things we need to also let students know. One final question that's come through, and we thank you for everyone who has sent in all their questions throughout today's webinar. The question that's come through from Fahad, for those who have missed the September intake, what are the options available and what do you recommend they do? To you, Mr. Venu, being the head of admissions and marketing, what advice do you have for students who may miss that September intake? What's the next step in the procedure?
It's too early to say that. We are still in August. I'm sure admissions are open across the university, so Fagil and others, I think, still should look up to visit the campuses. I think I see a lot of admission open notices from all these universities, so I think they should visit the campuses. It's still not.
I think if I can answer your question for you there, Mr. Venu, it should be that here are students that maybe just need to relax. And so here's someone who's clearly already stressing about getting their admission in because they think they've missed it. And listen to some of the advice that what you and the experts have said is just relax, do your research, knowledge, get your confidence through knowledge about what's happening. But let's role play it. If someone does miss that,
what I was trying to tell is that we're still open, so they should not be stressed about it. I know I meet a lot of students who are worried because the results got released a bit later as well. In fact, usually the results for say a CBSE board come in May, and this time it has gone. It got released only in July. So the admissions trend got a little bit delayed when compared to the last year. So still, it is not too late to the students who are seeing here. Don't be stressed. We are open. Please reach out to the admissions officers and meet them and talk to them, and we will help you to, even if you have not done your research in terms of the programs that are offered at UAE, the universities at UAE. There are admission counselors to help, and they can take a decision by visiting the campus, get the feel, talk to the faculty, understand the programs. There are people available to help them to give in-depth counseling and give all the information that they would require to get an informed decision. Just wanted to tell that we are still open, so you guys can still come.
Okay, that's great advice, because as we just wrap up today's webinar, I'll take your advice there, Mr. Vinu, for prospective students, that we are still open. Just lastly to you, Dr. Kavita, any last messages you'd like to give students?
The last messages, as Vinu said, our admissions are currently open. So the orientation for the new batch will be on 14th of September, but we will continue to take admissions till another 10 or 12 days after the orientation. So the students can still come, and we have open days every Friday from 4 to 8 p.m. so they can come visit the campus and meet the faculty with an appointment. So we will look forward to having you at the campus, and I wish you all the best for your future educational pursuits.
Yeah, excellent words. And Dr. Rami, anything you'd like to say to any students who are nervous and still thinking about studying and applying?
No, as I told you, Ketch, before, with the delays that happen sometimes in grade release, and we are taking all this into consideration. So, as my colleague said, admission is still open. So no worries. Don't, as you said, for the person who put that question, calm down, relax, take your time. Of course, don't take too much time. I mean, the semester will start next week, but you always know that there is a drop and add period, which is the first week or two after the beginning of the semester, which will allow students still to register. So please come forward to us, to any of the universities of choice you have in UAE. I'm sure every university will do their best to help you in finalizing your papers, admission requirement, and everything. As I said before, we had extended as well our fee reduction and others, so that to give also an extra help to students who are coming late. So please come meet with us. We are here. We are open. You may have to go through a booking appointment though, and the safety guidelines, of course. But please, we would like to see anyone who's interested to come and meet with us, definitely. And best wishes for everyone.
Yeah, that's very positive advice. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of our experts today, to you, Mr. Vinny, Dr. Kavita, also Dr. Rami. Thank you. I know we briefly had Dr. Sain, who couldn't quite get with us, and also Professor Manda from the Gulf Medical University, who has just had to duck off. So thank you very much for everyone who's taken part in a poll. Thank you to everyone who has sent through a question, who has watched live. Also to the team here at Gulf News. They're the best in the business. It's always great working with you. My name is Lachlan Kitchen. Thank you very much, and we look forward for you to join us at our very next Gulf News webinar. Thank you.